Distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen, dear colleagues, it's a pleasure to welcome you for this lecture on the future challenges for the Mediterranean for 2050, which is part of an all-day event on hydrodiplomacy and the nexus for the Eastern Mediterranean and Middle East region that has been co-organized with the Inter-Academic Group for Development, GID, the French Institute in Cyprus, the French Embassy in Cyprus, the Agence des Sciences d'Outre-mer, and the Cyprus Institute, of course. Sorry, it's been a long day. Our lecture today is on the tools and methods for a more sustainable and human Mediterranean, and it's my honor to introduce our speaker today, Michel Gendreau Massalou, who is currently the Vice President in charge of institutional relations for the GID. Michel Gendreau Massalou took her degrees at the École Normale Supérieure and the Sorbonne. She's a specialist of early Spanish literature. She wrote her PhD thesis on Seneca in the Spanish literature of the Golden Age. She's since published many books and articles on Mediterranean cultures and civilizations. A professor at the University of Limoges, she's chaired the Department of Spanish and Latin American Literature and Civilization at this university. In 1981, she was appointed as the head of public education system, the recteur of the Academy of Orléans Tours, and other appointments followed. Presidential advisor for education, 1984-1985, deputy secretary general of the presidency, and spokesperson for the President of the Republic, 1985 to 1988. Member of the French National Commission for Communication and Freedoms, 88 and 89, and rector of the Academy of Paris and chancellor of the universities from 89 to 1998. Appointed as a state councillor in 98, she was elected as the rector of the Agence Universitaire de la Francophonie, the AUF, which is a multilateral agency cooperating with more than 1,000 universities around the world, including the Cyprus Institute. We're now members of this. After heading the AUF from 1999 to 2007, she was put in charge of training, higher education, research, health and culture within the French mission for the Mediterranean from 2008 to 2012, and then the interministerial delegation for the Mediterranean from 2012 to 2015. She has received multiple awards, and she is Commandeur de l'Ordre National de la Légion d'Honneur, Grand Officier de l'Ordre National du Mérite, and Commandeur des Palmes Académiques. That's all. So without further ado, Michel Gendreau Massalou, I'd like to invite you to give your lecture tonight. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. Dear President Kostas, dear Fadi, we worked a lot to organize and conceive this wonderful meeting. Dear Minister, dear colleagues and dear guests, dear students and professors and researchers, I'm honored to be here to speak as a member of what I would like to call the GID Dream Team. The Dream Team with the President, François Guinaud, the former Secrétaire perpétuel de l'Académie des Sciences, Ambassador in charge of science and technology all around the world, Catherine Mochignac, Vice President, the Secrétaire perpétuel of the Academy of des inscriptions et belles lettres, Nicolas Grimat, the President of the Academy of Agriculture, Jacques Brûlé, and le secrétaire perpétuel de l'Académie des Sciences d'Outre-mer, Pierre Génie, a fabulous team, and also other members who are not here, like Michel Menu for cultural heritage, or Yannick Jaffré for our action all around Africa for health. And I am honored, and I would like to say some word about language. Of course, I will speak English, because it's better to be understood by all of us, all of you. But I think that even in hard research, we need to be understood really about what we are in our bodies, in our way to think. to express our own thoughts in our own native language. And I think that Mediterranean Sea is a wonderful multicultural area for a plurality of languages, of cultures. And I would like me to be able to understand as well Greek language as Arabic language as the other languages. And I dream about one future day when a machine will allow us, when we speak our own native language, to be able immediately to be understood in his or her own language by every citizen of a country all around the Mediterranean. But I will speak English, of course, but I say also, speak French. And now I will also present you a sort of quick survey of different institutions and organizations. Here we are in a powerful and unique institution, the Cyprus Institute. I know the institution for a long while. I had very impressive moments at the beginning with a lot of personalities. But other institutions also exist. And I think it's useful for you to know a lot about institutions linked with water issues, with environmental issues. Maybe they have the same aims and targets as the aims we described. Maybe they don't know the work done by the Cyprus Institute. Maybe this opportunity given to us to speak about what every institution is doing will afford new opportunities for every institution to be in touch with you as I am, because I will speak about institutions in which I worked or with which I worked, and I'm in touch with every institution I will speak about. 3 moments and 3 ideas. 3 ideas of my own, personal ideas, but maybe politically incorrect. I'm not a diplomat. And nevertheless, I feel diplomatic issues are important in this area, because if we need science, if we need technology, we also need scientific approaches, as we perfectly know. So 3 moments, because of course, we identified common targets. We know perfectly that we face common risks. We know that the Mediterranean region offers an immense potential for sustainable, environmentally friendly development of its people. We all know that serious environmental threats, including water scarcity, put at risk this potential. We know that the Mediterranean region is prone to environmental stresses and shocks associated with water scarcity, air pollution, coastal erosion, desertification, drought, extreme weather events, including storms and heavy rains leading to flash floods, heat waves, and wildfires. We know that sustainable access, provision, and use of water are key concerns. We know that particularly the areas along the southern and eastern shores of the region are among the world's most water scarce, with more than 150 million people facing water stress as well as water pollution problem. We identified crucial targets, but other institutions also identified them. A lot of projects and useful proposals exist, and the new aims and goals of our common commitment are, I would say, more and more shared all around our Mare Nostrum. My purpose is not to repeat the conclusion of today's conference, but to make an inventory and describe what could be the achievements in the sectors linked to environmental issues made by a large number of organizations in charge of what is now a shared priority, but also to identify the obstacles, the difficulties, the problems. And as I will say, the JID is there to receive the demands of nations and people and to help affording the right solutions, concrete solutions. What are the implementations of the structures? It will be one of my questions. And in all the topics I will describe, hydrodiplomacy is a good example of what can be done between science, technology, and diplomacy. There are other sectors. And in each sector, I will underline 3 points. First of all, we need a political level for general orientations. We need a strong commitment of people who rule the politics in every country. We need it. And there are institutions for that. Are they useful? Are there obstacles? Second level, the level of public policies. It's necessary to develop frameworks for combining national public policies and international cooperation. I will speak a bit about 2 institutions which were not mentioned. Le Plan Bleu, which is a French institution but linked with the United Nations system, the Blue Plan, and the Center for Mediterranean Integration, which is in Marseille, and linked with the city of Marseille and with the PACA region. Third level, the level of training, which in the view of what we develop in the GID is essential for training, for acquiring knowledge and skills and research, and provide individuals and groups with shared knowledge and skills. Exemplary is the Cyprus Institute and other institutions I will mention, and maybe there is another idea we could share. Because there are margins of progress. There are limits of the possibilities of each sector, and there is a new necessity of creativity and cultural awareness we expect from all the associations, institutions, and I will advocate for strengthening the relationship between the 3 levels, which yet exist in some cases, but in my opinion can be improved. The political level apparently exists and it must be described. You remember the Barcelona process. It was in 1998. There was a huge hope for peace. We all have in mind the photo between Yasser Arafat and Yitzhak Rabin, and it was a moment of hope. But the process was jeopardized and failed to yield the expected results. And in fact, the situation between several countries and other countries which were not so eager to develop a solidarity, but rather eager to develop their own priorities and their own, I wouldn't say role of nations. I believe in nations. Nations are useful all around the Mediterranean. You have to believe in what you are in Cyprus as well as in France or in Italy or in Egypt. But I don't believe in nationalisms. And rapidly, the Union for the Mediterranean was a place where nationalism was also the roots for impeachments, defeats, and problems. Nevertheless, the UFM is really eager to promote a regional and sustainable development about environment. And he supports the implementation of regional agendas on water, environment, blue economy. And of course, it's also aware of the links, the necessary links between water, energy, climate action, and it has also an agenda for energy as well as for climate action linked to the global and agenda for international forums. It also has an agenda to develop, and you can, the photos are I'm not fond of this kind of photo, but it gives you the sites, and it may be useful for you to have the name of the sites. It supports the promotion of projects and initiative as well as the implementation and replicability. And it also develops an interoperable and sustainable transport, because the UFM is aware of the necessity of bringing together the new energy agenda. But this is a good example. The agenda for transport exists. But if you want to have a road between Morocco and Algeria, you know that people will not work along the frontier because the political issue is too difficult. And so the transport agenda as a contradictory force acting against the realization, the implementation of the agenda. It's the same for the urban agenda. The Union for the Mediterranean has a very good urban agenda. And the aim of transforming the cities, having more trees, gardens, local possibilities to go from the inner center of the cities to the rural areas are really part of the work done by all the representatives of the state in the Union for the Mediterranean. But also the national preoccupations often impeach the implementation of this agenda. Easy and safe access to flows of goods and people over land and sea are also really nice targets for the Union for the Mediterranean. And of course, when you see how it is written, you see that on the programs of the Union for the Mediterranean, sustainable development with energy and climate action, water and environment, transport and urban development has a huge place in the project, as well as social and civil affairs. Of course, there are other programs and other projects, but even in other projects, some of them are linked to water and environmental topics. For example, I am linked to the two Mediterranean universities which arose from the Union for the Mediterranean. The University of Fez, the Euromed University of Fez, and the Euromed University called EMUNI. And in both universities, you can find modules related to water and environment problems. At EMUNI on blue economy, at the University of Fez on bio, agro, digital, energy, environment, and also on preservation and enhancement of heritage. There are masters and there are PhDs. I experience these meetings. I think it offers powerful opportunities, but the ambassador, the personality who represents in these meetings one of the 42 countries often feels it difficult to build a meeting where every country is really eager to develop its solidarity with the others. For example, for education, which is an absolute priority, even if we want to develop water and environmental issues. We had the first meeting before the creation of the Union for the Mediterranean in Cairo in 2007. But later on, the systems of education were too different. Every country was eager to preserve its own system. The European system was not able to expand and develop all around the sea. And the second meeting of Minister for Education only took place some months ago. So, you know, there are real problems, and the political hostile climate between several countries, the diversity of system, makes often difficult and even disappointing to proceed to common declaration with concrete proposals and a vision of common implementation, which is my opinion, is crucial. We want to change the way people live all around the Mediterranean, with people, not with only head of states and ministers. The results now implicate ministers of employment, social affairs, inclusion, transport, energy, research, innovation, but with theoretical results. And I hope we will see someday the implementation. Culture is not under mandate, and nevertheless, it's really crucial too. And recently, 2 weeks ago, Euromed Minister of Culture met in Naples, but it was not an initiative of the Union for the Mediterranean, it was an initiative of the Italian Minister for Culture with his colleagues. Another difficulty is to get a real follow-up of the decisions and common declarations, because the sharing data is not so easy. It was said this morning. There is a gap between the ministerial commitments and the local realizations, social, cultural factors, administrative weaknesses, corruption are really at work, as well as political commitment. This is why a new format emerged. It's a French initiative which is called 5+5 Dialogue. And it unites the following countries of northern and southern ribs of the West Mediterranean: Morocco, Mauritania, Algeria, Tunisia, Libya for the southern rib, Portugal, Spain, Italy, France, Malta for the north. It's supposed to work faster, easier, because some of the prevailing problems of the UFM do not present themselves in the same way. They save time. There are not political declarations at the beginning which are too long. And this is my first idea. 5+5 on the western part of the Mediterranean is very useful. Why not? Since the Cyprus Institute is crucial as a regional center of excellence for the eastern part of the Mediterranean, why not convince a 5+5 Council of Ministers or Head of States of the eastern part of the Mediterranean to have a regional dialogue according to the principle of the 5+5 western part of the Mediterranean. It's my first idea. Maybe I give some words about it later on. But in fact, even if the political level is efficient, it's not enough. And so the second level for me is essential. You have to really make a link, make a bridge between the political commitment and the public and private institutions to realize, to implement the decisions and the plans of action of the programs designed by the heads of states and ministers. I will speak about two institutions. First of all, Le Plan Bleu. The Blue Plan is an organ of action for the Mediterranean of the United Nations Environment Programme. It's engaged in prospective work with a strong priority towards sustainable development. It has a series of focal points all around the Mediterranean in order to monitor the state of the environment. He produced studies and scenarios for the future in order to make Mediterranean stakeholders and decision makers aware of environmental issues and sustainable development in the region. It provides socio-economic insights for the appropriate management of the Mediterranean resources. It facilitates a science, political, and civil society interface. It supports the transition towards a green and blue economy, and it designs possible futures with a large range of possible scenarios for sustainable development. Of course, it could enlighten the decision makers. It created a website called l'Observatoire, the Observatory, which gather researchers and facts. But these scenarios don't apply on the ground. They remain exercises for thinking and collecting data, collecting facts. But the relationship with the administrations and with the corporate is not visible. I appreciate very much. I think it's really useful to have these scenarios and evaluation of facts, but it's not enough. We have other institutions like the Center for Mediterranean Integration. And this is the sector for application of the scenarios of the Blue Plan Sustainable Tourism, which is a very important issue too. Center for Mediterranean Integration, which is a partnership where international development agencies, government, local authorities, and social society is supposed to convene in order to exchange ideas, discuss public policies, identify regional solutions. Representatives of southern countries, Morocco, Tunisia, Jordan, Egypt, Lebanon, work with representatives of northern countries, France, Italy, Greece, and with also multilateral donors, the World Bank, the European Investment Bank. And I will underline the role of the city of Marseille, the city of the PACA region, because it gives a very concrete approach on the demands. And you have two active programs, a Mediterranean Forum on Electricity and Climate Change, and a forum on regional knowledge program on water. And everything, of course, is complex and interconnected. I participated on several conferences where a lot of private and companies and public companies meet together. And I was shocked because each company was acting for its own development and its own vision and its own future. And of course, I consider, which is really politically incorrect to say it, but I say what I feel, that these institutions, including the Center for Mediterranean Integration, which is now reshaped by researchers of the World Bank, they have a limited impact on public policies, in spite of the quality of the study they realize and disseminate. When you compare them, in my opinion, with other worldwide institutions like OECD or Asian or Pacific Economic Cooperation, APEC, for Asia and Pacific territories, you understand that the first way of stimulating the integration is building learning, training, mutual evaluation arrangement for senior and junior civil servants, possibly with corporate executives from companies also, private and public sector, with long-lasting working groups, several years. And these permanent devices do not exist in the Euromed area. This is why I consider that institutions, the third level, individual and group training, capacity building, new initiatives, as the initiative we heard about today, are really the pillar for building something different and with visible results. A good example of a really impressive evolution is the Center for, we did not speak about it today, the CIAM, the Center for International Research on Agriculture all around the Mediterranean, founded in '62. It has been devoted to development of agriculture, fisheries, sustainable food systems, and to supporting the inclusive growth of rural and coastal Mediterranean territories. If you see the key words for Siam, it matters. In fact, it matters a lot. And you see its identity, keywords: inclusion, dialogue, food, multilateralism, agroecology. You see them. And it insists on the accountability framework, and it implements them through a result-based management approach. This is a real multilateral cooperation. It happens to train several thousand people a year in each of its centers, in Saragossa, in Chania in Greece, in Bari, we were in Bari with the GID, and in Montpellier. Of course, its specific topic is agriculture, but it's widening its field of intervention, and I think we all need to build a stronger partnership. We began by watershed basins, but it's only a beginning, as we all know, because I think that is one of the pillars of the intercultural dialogue and diversity we are looking for. Several nationalities and religions coexist within the Siam, and if we are wishing a really united Mediterranean area with the sustainable development is a real priority, territorial cohesion are the seeds of social stability and inclusive growth, you have to take it into account. Other initiatives, national universities, research centers, networks could be described. More than 1,000, I think. Within their national or international framework, they represent useful tools for the building of a new generation, engineers, corporate staff, civil servants, in all the concerned sectors. But when young people, students, want to achieve a study or a PhD or master in one of these institutions, it's not, the institution often offers the agenda of its own development and its own priorities, and not often the relationship between the other institutions of the same field. I want to say also that if we want really to transmit and to allow young people to give new ideas, as here in Cyprus was the case when Cyprus organized the La Nuit des Idées, the night for new ideas, you have to build a comprehensive pedagogical modules different from what we knew. And it's useful because we are not the same in this aspect as we were before the pandemic. We are used now, I'm not very much used to screens and videos, but you, students and professors, are used to it. And I think it's an opportunity. With a private university located in Cagnes-sur-Mer, which is the University Internationale de la Mer, Open University, if you want. And Emoni, which is one of the two European-funded universities all around the Mediterranean, in Piran, in Slovenia, I built a diploma. It's new. And I want it's my second idea, to talk about it because it's new about the method. The diploma will open in October. It will be hybrid, with the bulk of modules being conducted virtually and with in-person workshops at the end of the program. The modules making up the diploma will be participatory in nature and will run from October to June. The diploma has several interrelated goals. First of all, it provides hands-on training for people who use participatory methods for environmental issues. Participatory methods are not often taught They include role play, teamwork, debriefing, participatory simulation, modeling, companion modeling, games, internship, and on-the-job training. Environmental issues are wide-ranging and include ocean literacy, climate change literacy, fishing, food security, marine spatial planning, acidification, overfishing, public health, coral reefs, biodiversity, natural resources, marine plastic, chemical pollution. This new way to mix ways of teaching and ways of mixing also persons in charge of jobs in companies and students contribute to, to the efforts worldwide to equip professionals with tools to solve some of the ocean's problems, and then people rise to the enormous challenges by training them in the use of effective tools and methods. And the aim is to build a team of change agents who can pass on these skills to others, encouraging wider use of participatory methods by demonstrating that such methods constitute a powerful tool for tackling environmental issues of all kinds. The target is also to encourage acceleration in the use of these methods for environmental issues and contributing to their resolution. This diploma has an international vocation with a focus on Europe and the Mediterranean basin. Applicants will be bachelors and persons with a master's degree, and also professionals in private and public organizations. And I encourage every person interested to apply. This is new. I think it can be really interesting. At the end of this short review, I will also, this is the University of the Sea, the founder of this participatory module, and this is MUNI on the Piran shore with the applications and registers and the site. And now, of course, about Cyprus Institute, you know much more than I do, but I would underline some points. It's a non-profit research and educational institution. It's a strong scientific and technological institution. It's a regional center, not only for Cyprus, but for all the region. It addresses issues of global significance. The emphasis is not only on water, environment, or cultural heritage, but on cross-disciplinary research, which is, my opinion, is important. And it helps transform the economy of all the countries in the region to a knowledge-based economy. The unique geopolitical location of Cyprus is really, for me, a sort of basis for the future. I would like to see Europe, which is nearly the unique source of funding for most of the institutions I mentioned. It should be the gateway for Europe, for the Eastern Mediterranean and Middle East region. And I think that the research communities of all the region could be encouraged to mix their possibilities and proposals for research, building all around the Cyprus Institute a sort of core new wave of interest. I'm definitely convinced that a number of projects, of Mediterranean projects for Eastern Mediterranean can here take a new beginning. as far as the GID is concerned, the president and the members of the Dream Team spoke about it. It was founded, as you probably know, in 2007 by 11 academies of the Mediterranean and Sub-Saharan Africa. He reflects on the main issues, both scientific and technological, and the common problems. And you know the programs, one about women and children health in Africa, about cultural and natural heritage, with a strong accent on agriculture. And the topic of conference is really linked to our agriculture and environmental priority. You know about our annual conference, it's Parmenides. And we know that experts with the experience of academies afford not only to reflect on the problems, but to afford to solve the problems we identify. The reflections and actions are available on our site. And I think we are also really efficient when we act with other institutions, together with institutions. And in the example of the day, we saw some pictures about the relationship between the Siam and the GID. I would like now to have a little video on that. It's 2 minutes. It is French. This is a name. I hope very much with the Cyprus Institute we are beginning sort of similar agreement with similar development and similar future. We will do something like that with you, Mr. President, with you, Fadi. But this is my third idea. The funding of our institutions are also a great problem. The main resources for all the institutions I mentioned for that project come from European funding. And it's rather scarce if we compare with the European budget for the integration of the countries in Northern Europe, in Central Europe. Of course, We are now re-equilibrating, since a large number of the countries in Central Europe are convincingly integrating. The integration process, or rather the co-development process, requires evidently more private and public funding. And we also need more creativity, a broader involvement in the scientific, technological, and active communities. And I'm convinced, I said it yet, that a good way to compensate the lack of funding is to establish synergies, exchanges, mutualizations. And I have a dream, a modest dream, but it's not politically correct. Every institution works for its own safe, for its own development, its own progress. It is normal. And you students, you professors want a real good position in the real institution you are in. This is completely useful. This is correct. And not only to survive, but to expand the role of the institution in which and for which you are working. But also, I advocate for the possibility for every person in that room, every person with a strong capacity in science, technology, with a strong experience, all of you have this capacity to be in another moment of its or her life, of his life, not a moment in the position of his official position, but another moment to offer, and I would dare to say even maybe to offer for free his or her skills, experience and knowledge to other institutions and organizations who would possibly do not know the experience, the skills, and knowledge the person may afford. When I participate in a university or scientific association or organization management of scientific board, they beg me for getting more funding, helping the French government, Brussels, to give more funding to the institutions. But my dream is not only to beg for one institution you are part of, but to know that all institutions are in charge of the same problems. All institutions need the support of every experienced and scientifically consistent personality. We can achieve more if we are able to join forces without thinking only about the organization we are in. We are thinking also out of our box. This is very interesting too. I'm out of my box when I speak to you this way, but I think it's useful. And also, for that, my communication with that, and it's not only a communication or a speech, it's a call for every person here. Thank you for your attention.
Thank you very much for this extremely inspiring call for action. I think we have time to take questions, so please, if you want to stay at the... Jean?
A very short question. Thank you very much for your presentation of tools and methods. I will ask you a question that I'm very often giving to my students for them to see if they have these pragmatic skills that sometimes they miss. If I give you €1 million today to invest in the Cyprus Institute in one of these tools and methods, which tool or method you would like to implement with this amount of money?
I know the Cyprus Institute has a strong relationship with the ground, because it affords science, but also it has experience with the Cyprus communities. And so I would like, as you said, Mrs., that my first investment should be to have a link with experimental water ways of sharing water or building in a small community, in a small village in Cyprus, building a new possibility for people to have real access to water or to consume less water, and to have a practical exercise on what they know, on what they theoretically know. This would be my first priority, to define small territories with small communities interested in the methods and programs of the Cyprus Institute, and to ask the researchers of the Cyprus Institute to go there and to develop with the people there a new possibility for them to spare water or to consume less water or to have more trees or to have more vegetables or wine. I don't know. It depends on the village, and it depends on the ground. Concrete experience on the ground with people, not only here in the Cyprus Institute. It would, and I know it would be easy to spend all the million.
Thank you, Michel, for this excellent, marvelous presentation and conference, really. It was amazing. As you know, we have practiced together the Union for the Mediterranean since the starting of the Union for the Mediterranean. We were at Marini Palace meeting all the time, and we used to work on the thematic that you have listed. And then we practiced also the Plan Bleu, and the Plan Bleu worked also on the same thematic. Unfortunately, lucky am I that I am here to continue the work, but with little bit different is that we are knocking from the Cyprus Institute on the goodwill of the decision maker. And this is very important. Maybe there is another room to mobilize the young generation. And I think by mobilizing the young generation, we can make an effet de boule de neige, because these are the ones who are going to implement with us, who are going to learn. They are eager to learn how to preserve the ecosystem and the environment. And the idea of 5+5, I practice it within the MEMBO, Mediterranean Network of Basin Organization. It's a marvelous idea. And I feel that it could work for the MA region also.
I hope
and
so.
Our initiative could be really highly expanded by the 5+5 idea. Thank you so much, Michel, for this idea.
Thank you, Fadi. Thank you. It's enough for me to develop that. As far as young people are concerned, I'm eager also to implicate them in the development of the initiatives here. But, as you know, when they are asked to propose new ideas, they often are not able to develop the structures and the ways of implementing the ideas. And so the idea of the proposal, the pedagogical proposal I presented, is not to leave these young people alone, only within a group of young people. I am fond of mixing generation. I'm fond of mixing generation of young people, experienced people, academicians, who can really have a role of monitoring and helping them to have more consistency, more efficiency, and but following their initiatives, and simply helping them to bring their initiatives to a point where they are compatible with the possibilities. I'm rather pragmatic. I think that the only way to act quickly for a better and more human Mediterranean is to have new proposals, but within the real possibilities of the different actors and the different communities, as well as the citizens, villages, communities, as well as the young people, and mixing them to structure and provoke changes.
I would like to add one point regarding the youth, engaging the youth. It could be a good idea to set up a youth council of researchers and young students, and who will work with the board, let's say, of the institute, and who will sit with you on meetings with governments or other partners. This is what we have just set up in the Arab International Women's Forum, a youth council, not only of women, of young men and young women, to advise us further, advise the board on gender diversity and inclusion.
Yeah. But I completely agree, and in different institutions I provoked the creation of groups and councils of young people. But the condition is that if young people are listened to, they have to listen to also. Okay.
Thank you very much once again. And this concludes not only the public lecture, but this day of events. I'd like to thank all of you for participating and to remind you that we have a cocktail reception waiting just outside where you can ask more questions. So thank you very much. Thank you.